This is the MyMichelleLive Podcast.
Weekend Review. A look back at the week. It's MyMichelleLive Weekend Review. Here's Michelle.
Hey, it is Weekend Review time where we take a look at the news of the week. We unspin it and we give commentary that gives you hope, gives you a little bit of insight, and helps lead to the God story, because God's story, it's his story, it's history. He knows what he's doing and he's got a plan in this. And so there is a little bit of hope. There's also a little bit of eye rolling, and we're going to eye roll together, Adam and I. Adam Ruggieri is my co-host. Hey, Adam.
Hey, how you doing? How you been? How's everybody doing today?
Crazy week in the news. Lee, we're going to start off with a little story overseas, a little view from Jerusalem. I'm going to play a little bit of what our president has been up to. Now we know that he is the president of the POTUS, but he's also the chief of gaffs lately. And this was a little bit silly. So we'll play a few seconds of this. Take a listen. We'll see. Oh, it's on mute. It's one of those mornings.
6 million Jewish lives were. I will once more return to the hollow ground of Yad Vashem. Keep alive the truth and honor of the Holocaust. Horror of the Holocaust.
Oh, the truth and honor of the Holocaust.
Truth and honor of the Holocaust. Oh, what did I say? Oh my gosh. Angry Grandpa Simpson just totally screwed that one up.
That's indicative of this week when we think of the gaffs and the laughs, and it's not funny anymore. Now, anyone can make gaffs. I do it on this show all the time, but we're hearing them more and more. We saw the famous teleprompter where it says in speech here and do not read this line. And it makes you think, how in control is this man really in such an important time? It's more than just something to look at and feel uncomfortable, because honestly, we're at a place in history where we're making some big mistakes that have gone before. What did you think when you saw this, Adam?
It was hard to watch, but it's also just to be expected. And I'm sure that his communications team was watching this and just like face palming, just like putting their hand over their heads. Oh my gosh, it happened again. He's really making their jobs quite difficult. Their jobs, I think, are difficult also because they lack a lot of relevant experience when it comes to running the world. So I wasn't hugely surprised by it. I think a lot of people should just be asking themselves, how do other world leaders see us, right? What does Putin think when he sees Joe Biden? What does Mohammed bin Salman think when he sees Joe Biden? And what does Xi Jinping think when Joe Biden seems to not really be all the way there, right? I feel like we are so exposed. I feel like we're so vulnerable now to really China being our biggest world adversary, stepping in and trying to make themselves the single only power in the world. Like, we are in a really compromised position here, and peace through strength is a way that we've done things over the last couple of decades, and we haven't seen any of that. Like, ever since Joe Biden took office, and we lost this perception of strength. He says he's a guy who does what he says, but it's been quite the opposite. Every time they say
that's what he says.
We're looking at what he says or ignore it altogether. And that's just been par for the course with this administration. Michelle, I'm just like, when is this going to stop? And how long can we put up with this? Like, do we have 2 more years?
Ooh, that's a good question. And yeah, if he does what he says, we don't even know what he says. So how do we know, really? And as you say, yeah, we're really vulnerable internationally and the world stage, but we're also vulnerable, and we can see it play out with ideas. This was from time to time, those of you who are new to My Michelle Live, we will play TikTok videos that I think are just really work, and it's funny. This one was funny, and it's talking about wokeism and racism, how they're really more alike than you'd think.
Brad first met, I didn't think we'd get along, but turns out we agree on everything. Your racial identity is the most important thing. Everything should be looked at through the lens of race.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. We both have a lot of opinions about people of color, even though we barely know any.
I say colored people, but as long as we're classifying them, we both think minorities are a united group who think the same and act the same.
And vote the same. You don't want to lose your black card. Sorry, I don't know. I just think we should
roll back discrimination laws so we can hire based on race again. Jinx, now you owe me a Coke. Hey, tell them what you told me yesterday.
White actors should only do voices for white cartoon
I've
characters.
been saying that for years. Stick to your own.
Us white people, we have so much privilege.
I agree. It is a privilege to be white. Ask him about interracial dating.
All I said is that black men who date white women have internalized racism, and white men that date ethnic women are fetishizing them.
Guys against interracial dating now. Am I being pranked? Did Brad first met?
Those guys are brilliant. They're calling it out.
So that's what I'm saying, is that we have opened ourselves because of our ignorance and because of some of the policies to problems as we look at Joe Biden talking about the Holocaust and such. There's people who don't even believe in it anymore. And yet those who do bring out some really important points. You remember Gina Carano?
Oh, of course, yeah.
So
Star Wars.
Gina Carano used to be on The Mandalorian, of course, and she was axed because of her politics. And we're seeing more and more people who are being punished because of their politics. So she said Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views, or because they're vaccinated, or because they wear masks? And I'm adding, but she said that, and that is something to think about. And because of that, she was taken off air. By the way, just a side note, don't worry about Gina. She's back and she's on top. The former MMA fighter is starting a new Western series developed by the Daily Wire. It's called Terror on the Prairie.
The Daily Wire and a lot of other businesses are basically seizing the opportunity to create these parallel economies, right? Other options beyond the woke option. Disney's once family-friendly content is no longer family-friendly. So there are now new options popping up, and the Daily Wire is happy to be hiring these people that are being canceled by, you might call them the mainstream Hollywood, the mainstream
and they're
media.
making money on
They
it.
just hired Jordan Peterson, who was basically canceled by Real World Academia. He was just recently permanently suspended from Twitter for, quote, dead naming Ellen Page / Elliot Page. Conservative businesses and libertarian businesses alike are really seeing a lot of value here by sticking to their guns and keeping it real and gobbling up those who have once been canceled unfairly. And Michelle, we live in this absurd moment in history where we literally have like conservative Black people being called white supremacists. Like, to think of Larry Elder as a white supremacist is just absurd. To think of Winsome Sears, a freaking awesome human being who immigrated from another country, who fought for our military, who happens to support Second Amendment rights and is now the number 2 highest elected position in the state of Virginia. To think of her as a white supremacist, like, no, I think she's just a great American. And so it's crazy that we live in a time where we are forced now to create this parallel economy because consumers are sick of it. Americans are sick of it. And they don't want to basically spend their money with organizations that buy into this woke garbage.
And why is it working? Why is this parallel economy working? It's because the idiocy, the hypocrisy doesn't work. Your worldview matters. So when you weigh out your worldview and see how it works in the end, it always breaks down. Joe Biden isn't the only one under fire this week. His wife had a big problem. And I'm going to just play, this is from Fox News, and I know that's outright going to offend somebody. But some of these things aren't always easy to find.
Hey, Michelle, real fast though, at least you're offending equally, right? Fox News will offend like staunch conservatives and liberals alike.
Okay. The equal opportunity offender.
Exactly.
Let's watch this.
Already reeling from a long list of problems, now has a new little headache to deal with. First Lady Jill Biden causing some controversy and forced to apologize for an apparent attempt at pandering to Hispanic voters.
Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami,
otherwise
and as unique
known as
the
bodegas.
breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, is your strength.
You're
At
a
least you pronounce Raul 90%.
Look at this.
Journalist not happy with those comments, tweeting in part, quote, NAHJ encourages the First Lady and her communications team to take time to better understand the complexities of our people and communities. We are not tacos.
We are not tacos,
Jill
but
Biden's
don't
press
worry, the
secretary
press
issuing
has
this
come
apology,
out
quote, the
to
First Lady
help.
apologizes that her words conveyed anything but pure admiration and love for the Latino
Watch
community.
this.
But the First Lady finding sympathy from some in the media.
First Lady's team probably huddling today.
You think?
That up. Because when you know Joe Biden, that's not who she is, but it didn't come out correctly.
We all, I don't know, we all have stepped in it. I know
We've
I
all
have
stepped
stepped in it. So, Dr. Jill, just
It's okay.
hear the
It's
humor.
okay.
We get it.
We
We understand
get
what
it.
you were trying to do.
Yeah,
and
we
just
understand.
try
It's
not
okay.
to do
Tell
it
us some more
again.
about the Holocaust.
I want to
Whoopi.
give her.
Yeah, so there you go. Thank you. Oh, I was worried about that, but thank God the media has come to her aid. And
My first thought, Michelle, was when Dr. Jill said the "Si se podway," and I was like, "You mean si se puede?"
say
Her
Podway.
pandering is
They
just
eat
next level
quesadillas
terrible. All
down
she has
there.
to do is spend like maybe 5 minutes before she starts this to consult with someone who speaks a little bit of Spanish. Doesn't even have to be great Spanish. Just talk to any given Texan, right, who's been around Spanish and English regularly. And you can very quickly get away from mistakes like Podway and Bogota. And man, this breakfast taco thing is just terrible.
Okay, but is that any worse than Hillary Clinton getting all ebonics when she's in the right neighborhood? I'm going to be speaking like this today.
Well,
Yeah,
Michelle, she did the same thing when she was campaigning for Bill. Like when she was traveling through the southern states, Hillary Clinton literally would fake a southern accent. I mean,
and
she's
not
from
a
New
very good
York.
one.
But Hillary, come on, we know that y'all does not feel natural to you. Like we know you're having a real hard time with our twang. It's like when my sister has a couple beers and she's pregnant now, so she's had no beers, but some twang comes out, right? Like a little extra twang, and just man, Hillary's poor attempt at that was just so
Not real,
just so
not
not
good. But even though the media did come out in force to help Jill, and it's downplayed some of the gaffes. In fact, if you try to Google the gaffes from Joe Biden from the Holocaust, it doesn't come up as a video. It's hard to find. So you have to duck go it, and then boom, it's
Right.
everywhere.
The internet's actually scrubbing that kind of content, Michelle. Like it's actually really difficult to find a lot of the content where, you know, even Joe Biden and Dr. Fauci talking about the fact that the vaccine, if you get the vaccine, you won't get coronavirus. The internet is literally scrubbing that content from existence. They're trying
Yeah.
to rewrite history. It's par for the course.
It is a rewrite of history, but even with all of that and the help from the media and the help from social media, the media is still now starting to get pretty uncomfortable with Joe Biden, and so are Democrats. Only 18% of Democrats want Joe to run again. Those 18% are probably people who don't even know who Joe Biden is anyway, because you know how dumbed down our nation is. But what's this with the media?
If you ask Joe Biden, he'll tell you that 92% of Democrats want him to run again. And there was actually this was trending on Twitter earlier this week, and the hashtag was Biden is a laughing stock. And it was literally someone asking him saying 94% of Democrat voters under the age of 30 want a new nominee. And then Biden literally approaches this reporter all angry, gets in the reporter's face, and he yells, "Oh, 92% of them want him." It's basically him yelling at facts again.
Is this it?
And with no basis or credibility behind him, just saying a fact isn't a fact. It's more of the same.
Yeah. And now, is this the video?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
let's take a look.
You don't want you to run again.
They want me to run.
2/3 say they
Read
don't.
the polls. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
A majority of Democrats say they don't want you to run again in 2024.
92% said if I did, they'd vote for me.
Primary voters want a different nominee. 2/3. If you break it down by age.
Whoops.
Read the poll, Jack.
Awkward.
Well, Michelle, maybe that's why when Biden was out of town, Gavin Newsom was spotted at the White House this week. Maybe that's why. But it wouldn't be atypical, though, by the way, for a guy like Gavin Newsom to show up at somebody else's house when the husband's out of town.
Oops, out.
He has a history of going after the wives of people that are close to him. So go figure. Biden's away
Awkward.
from home.
Awkward.
And here's creepy Gavin Newsom with his haircut. in all of his jail.
Just say it.
Going up to
Just
the
say
White
it.
House.
No, it's not a surprise, though. And we look at the news of the week to confirm what we're talking about here. It's not a surprise that people are not happy with what's happening in the White House. To use a coined phrase, it's the economy, stupid. And we're feeling it in the pocketbook.
Oh, yeah.
The annual wages that we've lost, the average worker under the Biden administration, we've lost $3,400 in our annual wages. If we look at
and $6,800, Michelle, in cases where you have two working parents. That's a lot of freaking money. How much I spent on a tank of gas this week? And this is Texas, I spent $115 on that tank of gas.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh my God.
It's like people literally have to work for a full hour of their day just to make up the money they spent on their trip to and from the office or wherever they work. An hour of your daily workday has to go just towards transportation to and from work. It's insane. It's insane. Michelle, looking back at like actual data, when President Biden took over from President Trump, inflation was at 1.4%, which is like pretty good by most measures. 1.4% is okay. Our dollar goes further. I can buy a lot more with less dollars. And now this newest inflation report just came out saying 9.1% as the inflation number. And it's 9.1% right now, inflation to the consumer. For the wholesale market, and this is what feeds into what consumers feel, it's 11%. So that basically means you have companies now making less, because by the way, like the cost of fulfillment is 11% worse because of the wholesale inflation. And that basically means that companies are trying to not charge customers more money for the goods they're selling, but they're losing more money for the goods they're selling. So 11% on the business side, 9.1% on the consumer side. And it's like, companies can't give people raises to make up for this because the money's just not there. So you look back to October when inflation was 6.1 or 6.2%, they called it transitory. By November, it crept up to 6.8%. And there was this tweet from Cameron Winklevoss. Remember the Winklevoss twins, the guys who were part of the early Facebook founding? Those were the twins who were like, I think they went on to the Olympics actually as rowers for Team USA. They were on the crew team at Harvard, I think. And now they're like big into the crypto world. And so Cameron Winklevoss posted this tweet and he was pointing out like inflation in October, November, December of 2021. And the excuses there, transitory in October, greedy corporations in November, and then supply chain bottlenecks in December when inflation hit 7%. Then all of a sudden it's 2022, it's this year, January, February, March. January, what's the problem? Still supply chain bottlenecks. We're talking about cargo sitting off the coast of Long Beach, waiting to hit the truckers and waiting to disperse through the US. Then February, inflation creeps up to 7.9%. Well, what's the reason there? Oil prices. Blame oil. And by March, inflation's at 8.5%. And that's when Joe Biden is saying, dang it, Putin, it's the Putin price hike.
Putin price hike.
Putin.
Yeah.
So now here we are in June, 9.1% inflation, and we're waiting for the excuse. Right? What's the excuse going to be, President Brandon? What's that excuse going to be? Are we building back better yet? I'm not quite sure, because right now it seems like we're all hurting quite a bit. I think the reality is we just need to start getting American energy back online, authorize Keystone because the petroleum market is a futures market. So just send some positive indicators to the oil producers, and that will immediately reduce the cost of gas, which will immediately reduce inflation. The goods that we buy will be cheaper to produce, to transport. Everything will be better. But there's not very much faith in the current government's ability to do that.
No, not at all. In fact,
did you know that most of the Biden administration has no actual business experience?
Yes, exactly. And for just one moment, I just want to remind our audience, you're listening to My Michelle Live. Adam Rosari and I are taking on the news of the week, and all of these articles we have links to, and you can watch. If you go to My Michelle Live, you can see the articles pulled up. We're not just making this stuff up. We researched this stuff. This is true. The government doesn't seem to know what they're really doing, and because you want to say, okay, that's fine, because the idea now is that the government is like mommy and daddy. Big brother there is there to take care of us, and they know what to do. So we're gonna ask them to just jump in. But the majority of Biden's team has zero business experience. What the heck? Really?
Give us some STEMIs. Give us some STEMI checks, right? I think people were calling them STEMIs at one point. Like, oh, our STEMI, it's my STEMI check.
Yeah.
I found one person in his administration that does have business experience.
Oh,
It's
good,
Gina
good.
Raimondo, Secretary of Commerce. But think about some other key positions, right? Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has zero business experience. She spent her entire life in academia and in government. That would explain why she's been in denial about inflation for so long. She was refusing to admit that the $1.9 trillion stimulus that Joe Biden spent was really just fuel for the fire. She's been advocating for more government spending. She's been advocating for higher taxes. Basically, she was trying to push forward the $5 trillion Build Back Better plan, which failed Congress. And thank God for that. Cecilia Rose, she's the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. I say she, I don't honestly know her pronouns, but I'm assuming she based on her photo and name. Zero business experience there, like none. The National Economic Council leader, Nadia Beckwith-Stanley, 0 years of experience. Our trade representative, Catherine Tai, 0 years of experience in business, a former congressional staffer, actually. And then we have the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Shalonda Young, 0 years of experience. Even okay, you wonder why the border is so bad, by the way. Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland, no business experience. HHS leader, Xavier Becerra, 0 business experience. Our energy problem is going to continue to get worse also, by the way. Jennifer Granholm, she thinks that she has 2 years of business experience, but fact checkers can't quite find those 2 years of experience in her resume. What's going on there? Think about people that have positions of credibility and actual brain power to give us. And so I looked to a different name, Morgan Stanley. How's that for a name? Morgan Stanley attributes inflation to excessive fiscal stimulus provided during the pandemic, particularly during the last $1.9 trillion package. That was the American Rescue Plan. And that was passed down at the end of March of 2021. That's when things started to get real expensive for us. Just as the economy was already starting to emerge from the COVID lockdowns, they thought that this huge stimulus would jumpstart the economy, but in fact, it just made everything more expensive because it wasn't investing into things that yield fruit over time. It was burning money on climate agenda BS, right? Like stuff that doesn't start to generate returns on investment. So here we are today, 9.1% inflation. And you know what? Like, it's probably going to get worse. Food inflation's over 10%. So own a freezer, buy it now, because by the time the holidays come, your food's going to be even more expensive. We're going to be talking, by Thanksgiving, we're going to be talking about how expensive turkeys are, if you could get a turkey.
If you can get a turkey. Yes, I'm doing a lot of canning. We may start doing some videos on the canning and preserving and how to save money and be a little bit more unrelied on the government to take care of all my needs. But that's not what we see with these folks who have zero business experience. They have a lot of politics experience, and politics of the left tend to go in the way of, I feel that this is good, and because I feel it, this must be true. And they have an over-reliance on the government. As an over-reliance on the government, they have a new story that's coming out that now most Democrats want to abolish the Supreme Court or involve the UN. What does that mean? Essentially, what that means is, I don't like what's happening, and it's not fair, and I'm going to go tell mommy on you. That's basically what the policy is. So most Democrats they're not happy with what happened with some of the rulings from the Supreme Court, even though they have zero understanding, about as much understanding as they have business experience, that our laws are based on the Constitution. Our Constitution is based on inalienable rights, not rights that the government gives you. And no, you do not have the right to take another person's life. For example, abortion is not in the Constitution, nor is it an inalienable. So It was inevitable that the court would eventually rule Roe v. Wade to be unconstitutional because it is not in the Constitution. We don't
have a
like
constitutional
that.
right to end a life that can't protect itself, right?
Boom.
It should be that simple. Send that to the states. Let them make that mistake, or let them make the right decision.
And most Democrats are now saying we need to get more Supreme Court justices, and we need to
They're
do it
asking for
now.
13, Michelle? 13 members?
13 members is what they're looking for, and they would like to have Joe Biden appoint them. And then that way it'll have more. It has become so ridiculous. And if we don't like what happens, then we're going to take it to an even higher court. We're going to go to the United Nations. So just screw all sovereignty altogether. Let's have a higher level of technocrats getting involved. So
Wait a minute, Michelle.
Yeah.
They're saying, okay, forget the Supreme Court, go to the United Nations and let like other countries be involved in decisions that affect our domestic policy.
Thank you.
That is absurd.
Yeah,
like that is a dog that doesn't hunt. That is a bird that doesn't fly. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But 53% of Democrats think that.
Michelle, China is on the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. China, like they are on this to this day right now. Like they have people in concentration camps. They are oppressing the Uyghur Muslims in China, like forcing sterilization, routinely raping those women. Like they're trying to basically get rid of those people from their society. And they're on the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. Why? How could our Democrats actually think that the UN is going to do things in our best interest when that's being allowed to take place today, right now, in the UN?
Because they're not
That's absurd.
thinking. And that's what it comes down to. How can they think that? Because they're not thinking. They're feeling. I'm not saying that we have 53% of Democrats that are bad people. Don't get me wrong. And these are people who are we're all trying to deal with real world problems in the ways that we think are best. But when you get to the feeling point and you're not thinking things through, and you're not following your worldview to the logical conclusion and going, oh, wait, that doesn't work. That's why we get to the God story on this program, because that's a worldview that actually works, and it works for everyone. Even if you're outside of that worldview, it works for you. And we know that things are just not working. There's a host of stories that we're going to be talking about now from all over the
Michelle,
world.
I think the thing that helps us get to the God story, but also helps us avoid terrible decisions like this, is just asking ourselves with every policy, like, and then what? And then what could happen? Okay, if we open this up, then what could come from that? Like, really? And that's why I think people that are more center and more center right and conservative are always trying to ask for very specific, very well-defined laws, because there limits what the and then what can be, right? And the and then what in this case of opening up the Supreme Court and then allowing the UN to speak for the Supreme Court if they don't like what the Supreme Court says. And then what? Okay, and then China can influence our domestic policy. It's a terrible thing.
It's a terrible thing.
Just like with space, with the space probe just got really cool photos of Jupiter and other parts of the
Webb
galaxy.
telescope.
And then what's beyond that? Obviously God. Like obviously God made that. Yeah, I think and then what's a really powerful way to think.
By the way, if you would like to know more about what they found with the Webb telescope, how they were able to time travel, and what that shows us about the universe and the God story, you need to go to MyMichelleLive and look at our Tuesdays program, Science and Technology, SciTech Talk, where Dr. Hugh Ross takes it on. It's
so
undeniable.
Cool. So cool.
Undeniable. All right, let's do a quick search around the world to see how some of these crazy policies where they're implemented in other countries have played out and what's going on around the world. In the interest of time, I'm going to hand it over to you, Adam, and we'll just do a little world tour right now.
Oh, yeah. We'll just do a little rapid fire world tour here. A lot of the world leaders who have been installed by the World Economic Forum. In Sri Lanka, you had protesters storm the presidential palace, resulting in the prime minister to resign over basically these terrible green agenda policies that subjected the people of Sri Lanka to daily 12-hour electrical blackouts. You had 22 million people in Sri Lanka that were in danger of food and medicine shortages. Inflation was skyrocketing. They had no gas. And if you flash back in time to 2018, that's when the World Economic Forum was publishing articles about how Sri Lanka was going to be a super rich country by 2025. And now here they are, literally ousting their leaders for following these terrible climate agenda policies that are destabilizing everything that was once foundational for them. Following from that, now we've seen in the Netherlands, the Dutch farmers are protesting strict government climate change mandates that sparked 40,000 people to gather and protest. In the Netherlands, they were trying to basically curb nitrogen and ammonia by 50% by the year 2030. And they picked that number fairly arbitrarily. Now, the Netherlands, like it's a country with one of the largest agro producers in the world. And the farmers said that they were being unfairly targeted by these climate rules. From that came these significant calls for the prime minister, this guy named Mark, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Mark Ruddy. They were saying, hey, you got to resign, man. This is not what we need for our country. You are subscribing to World Economic Forum globalist policies that are not in our favor. So we're seeing like world leader after world leader fall. Like these are not nationalist leaders. These are not leaders that do the best for their country. They're trying to subscribe to a global agenda, and they're using climate change as the excuse. We just saw and I'm still learning a little bit about this one. The Prime Minister of Italy announced his resignation, but it was a funky situation. The president of Italy rejected the resignation, so we're going to see what happens there. But same story, though. It's another prime minister that's following the globalist. The prime minister of Estonia just resigned. Some technicality there. I guess she has to resign to form a new government. And she's literally trying to like muster up a new government that is even more globalist. But I don't think it's going to work to her favor. I think we're going to see another uprising from the people that demands leadership that actually speaks up for their best interests.
Yeah, there you go. We are asking the question then, how's your worldview look? What is the logical conclusion? Or as you said, okay, and then what? It's a simple question. Last week we asked a simple question, where is Fauci? Where is Fauci? And this week he said, here I am. And as he appeared, Fauci made yet another conflicting comment in the never-ending saga of COVID-19. He said that, well, vaccines don't protect overly well against infection. Thank you. That's what we've been saying and been being canceled.
Oh, they don't?
Well, is he going to get canceled over that? I'm wondering. This is yet another stupid statement. Yeah, we know they don't protect. But he said, but it helps keep you from getting really sick and hospitalizations. Yet the majority of people in hospitals from COVID still remain people who have been vaccinated. And not to say that people who aren't getting it doing it as well, or getting bad reactions in some cases as well. But they don't tend to seem to make any difference at all. But what they do, while he says it can keep you from getting real sick, researchers suspect new variants of rapidly progressing brain degeneration disease from COVID-19 vaccinations. I think I would rather take my chances with the virus than a brain degenerating disease, because
maybe that explains a lot.
There you just say it. It does explain a lot. There are some other interesting things. Genetic COVID vaccines may damage children's innate immunity, as we're trying to push vaccinations from Elmo to Big Bird on our children. And this is a big story based on more government stupidity. One senator was saying you would even be shocked at where all of the money for COVID-19 relief went to. 15 million went to recovery funds. Of these recovery funds went to anti-racism initiatives, like for example, a $50,000 field trip to the Rochester Museum and Science Center in New York for students, just so they could see an exhibit that features the story of community-led efforts to remove racist artwork from a historic carousel. And that's somehow COVID relief.
That's responsible spending right there. That's crazy. It's like the gender studies programs over in Pakistan, right? Like, why are we using COVID funds to pay for that?
Good question. Good question.
Which congressperson is financially benefiting from that decision?
This is where we are coming to an end of our program today, but we want to end with a little bit of hope. The hope is that the power of belief in this study is spiritually linked to healthier life, greater longevity, and happiness. There is something to that God story that brings liberty and hope and life and help, ever-present help in times of trouble. Things make sense. You can see beyond what's going on today to a bigger story. You believe that there is a God who is looking out for you, and it weighs true in every situation. And now we can see again and again in studies that show spirituality linked to a healthier, happier life. So when these stories start to get to be a little much and it seems like the world is going to
Seriously.
hell in a handbasket, remember that there really is hope. There really is life. There really is, if you look through science, you look through logic, you look through just philosophy and weigh out worldviews, even world religions. A biblical worldview stands the test of time, the test of science, and the test of logic. It weighs out, and no matter what our governments do to mess things up, what's most important is, who do you say that he is? Who do you say that God is? Who do you say that Christ is? That's what it comes down to. So there's a message of hope. Adam, bring us home.
Yeah, definitely a message of hope, and it definitely gives you, I think, peace of mind. It also gives you foresight. Sometimes it allows you to see things happen before before they actually happen. Like stories from the Bible will literally like history repeats itself. And so you think about some of the things we're seeing in society today. A lot of those biblical stories really give you an idea of what's going to happen next, and what do I do to either mitigate something bad or to gain value from this particular thing in history that might happen. I think there's always a God story, and people are funny, right? So I think we have to, like, at the end of the day, just not forget to look out for each other and also just take a breath. These stories can get really exhausting, and it can put a lot of weight on the shoulders. So take a breath, walk around, look up, look at nature. There's a lot of things beyond what we read on the internet and what we hear online that I think should have our focus and our attention. And if we're able to diversify what influences us and what we expose ourselves to, we'll definitely be happier for that. And definitely realizing too, like, at the end of the day, God's got our backs. We're going to be fine.
Good word.
I guess I'll just leave it at that.
And it's an important message, and that's why we ask you to like, share, subscribe, grow this program and others like it, because the word is harder and harder to find. This kind of news is more and more difficult to get a hold of. So when you do get a hold of it, like it, share it, subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Thanks, guys.
For more fun, go to MyMichelleLive.com.
Booyah.